the hood, you got to be careful who you get your medicine from because everybody ain't a doctor.
You testified that there were periods of time where you would get a prescription for, or Mr. Floyd would get a prescription for opiates legally, meaning through a doctor, right?
Yes.
And you'd go to a doctor, you would get a prescription, and you would use those pills, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we use them, sometimes we sell them. It all depends on what type of drug we want to use.
And then there were other times where you would buy other people's prescriptions from them, right?
Yes.
That's when they run out of drugs and we run out of our prescription.
And then there were times when those weren't available, and so you would have to buy different types of pills, right?
And also different types of rocks.
Unknown sources, so to speak.
Yes.
So y'all was just buying dope from everywhere.
And are you familiar with Maurice Hall?
The dude that gave George Floyd the counterfeit $20 bill.
Yes.
And was Maurice Hall the person that you and Mr. Floyd bought controlled substances from?
We had.
So Maurice Hall supplied George Floyd with the fake money and the real dope.
In the January and February of 2020 timeframe, did you and Mr. Floyd, were you clean and sober?
In January and February?
Yes.
We,
My ass. What is you, French? Hell yeah, they was getting high.
Was there an incident in March that required Mr. Floyd to be hospitalized?
I don't know about Mr. Floyd, but there was an incident involving my grandmother that required a couple of police to get hospitalized while she was resisting arrest.
we went to the hospital a couple of times in March.
Damn, what y'all was trying to win? Patient of the month?
You later learned that that was due to an overdose?
Yes.
Anyway, what the hell did George Floyd go to the hospital for?
And did you learn what caused that overdose?
No.
Hunter Biden never had that problem. George Floyd is an amateur when it comes to Hunter Biden.
At that time frame, did you learn that Mr. Floyd was taking anything other than opioids?
No.
Did you know he tried to impersonate Hunter Biden? So you and him only done opioids together. He hid the other drugs from you.
You did not know that he had taken heroin at that time?
No.
Because if he did, he wasn't sharing.
Now, then in March of 2020, you got some pills, right? You remember describing that?
Yes.
Well, do you remember taking them?
How, like, physically?
Physically.
How the pill feel physically, not how your ass was turned up off a damn pill.
They look different to me than a normal pill. They seem like they were thicker.
Were they uniform in their size?
They weren't.
So in other words, you don't know what the hell you was taking to get high.
And you and Mr. Floyd both had those pills?
Yes.
And did you consume some of those pills?
I did.
Did they have the same effect on you as they did as your other types of opioids you had taken in the past?
No.
Where in the fuck is Mr. Maurice when you need him?
Opioid to me is like it's a pain reliever. It's something that is, kind of relaxing, takes your pain away.
Well, when you do crack, what do it do? Because you don't age by 35 years on painkillers and sleep.
The pill, that time, it seemed like it was a really strong stimulant. I couldn't sleep all night.
Well, when my uncle take pills, he can't sleep all night either. But he call his pills rocks. How do your pills make you feel?
I felt very jittery.
You felt what?
Very jittery.
Yeah, that sounds like the same pills.
Okay. And so these were pills that were not bought from someone who you knew to have a valid prescription for Percocets.
No.
Were these pills purchased from Mr. Hall?
No.
Because Mr. Hall got the bomb.
So when were these pills before or after Mr. Floyd was hospitalized for his overdose?
I don't remember.
And how was that? You know every other drug deadline.
But you described when you picked him up that night, so you must have reconnected because you had had a little bit of a break,
Yes.
right? Reconnected. When you picked him up that night, he was just in incredible pain, doubled over, right?
Yes.
Where did he get that dope from?
Let me back up a little bit. Did you know Mr. Floyd to spend a lot of time with Mr. Maurice Hall?
I wouldn't say a lot of time, but he spent time with him, yes.
Right. And would you agree that that was kind of from time to time that he would spend time with him?
It seems to me that Mr. Hall was a bad influence. If it wasn't for Mr. Hall, Mr. Floyd probably would still be alive. Mr. Hall gave him the drugs and the money.
Excuse me, I didn't like Maurice very much, no.
I don't like too many Maurices either. They sneaky.
Do you recall the FBI agents asking you, did Mr. Floyd purchase controlled substances from Mr. Maurice Hall?
Yes.
And do you recall saying yes?
I did say yes, but I did not see it with
I'm
my
gonna
own
object at
eyes.
this.
But you did take some with your own mouth.
Did you know that those were purchased from Mr. Hall?
What,
The pills that you described in March of 2020?
no, I didn't know.
Well, did you tell on it? Well, did you tell on his other connect too?
Do you recall the FBI asking whether you were getting those same pills from the same source from March to May?
I don't recall that question.
Well, do you recall the drugs?
Would it refresh your recollection to review a transcript?
Maybe that would refresh your memory because cocaine is a hell of a drug.
You've now had an opportunity to review that portion of the transcript, right?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that the FBI agents asked you from March to May if you continued to purchase those pills from the same source? Did they ask you that question?
They
Yes.
did.
And you responded, well, once in a while when we were desperate. Agreed?
That's what it says, yes.
No, that's what you said. And being desperate means you'll do desperate things, like going to a store with a counterfeit $20 bill.
Took him to the hospital. Did you notice foam coming from his mouth?
I noticed like some kind of, like, foam building in the corners of his mouth, kind of
Like
dry.
a dry white substance?
That nigga sounded dehydrated. You should have pulled over and bought him a Gatorade.
No, you were asked a couple of questions in terms of whether that overdose was caused by heroin. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And you said you didn't know.
I didn't.
Are you sure?
Do you remember telling the FBI that the overdose was from heroin?
I was speculating.
So why is you speculating that it's heroin?
Do you recall telling the FBI where or whom the source of that heroin was?
Once again, yes, I do remember that, but I was speculating.
And you was also snitching. Somebody won't be able to get high no more because they done told on they connect.
And was that Mr. Hall?
No,
Was that Shawanda Hill?
yes,
Shawanda gonna kick your ass.
Did you know Mr. Floyd to purchase drugs from Miss Hill as well?
no,
Do you recall being asked whether he purchased drugs from Miss Hill previously?
I don't remember that, no.
So all of a sudden you didn't snitch.
Would it refresh your recollection to review a copy of your transcript?
And show where you named every pill man and dope man in Minnesota at.
You were asked, do you know who the woman was that he would have gotten that from? And your response was Shawanda Hill,
Yes.
right?
Bitch, I hope you know Shawanda is watching this.
I was speculating at the time. I did not know that.
Well, in that case, you was lying if you were just speculating because you didn't know. That don't matter anyway. Shawanda is looking for you and she gonna kick your ass.
Understood. And you were asked, you said he liked getting drugs from her, and you said, correct? That's what you
It
said.
says that in the transcript, yes.
And you signed it, so you said it.
Now, those same pills, you ultimately got some of those same pills from March, or similar pills in May of 2020, correct?
We got pills in May that reminded me of the same feeling. I don't know if they were the same pills. I don't know. where they came from.
You better stop lying before we pull another transcript of you speculating.
Okay. So you had a second experience with those pills, right? Or a similar feeling to those pills?
I had a similar experience, yes.
Right. And that was approximately a week before Mr. Floyd's passing?
Yes.
The two people that you speculate that he was buying drugs from was in the car with him.
Do you recall telling the FBI that when you had that, you felt like you were going to die?
I don't remember saying that, but I did see it in the transcript.
So your ass do remember saying it.
I'm assuming like most couples had pet names for each other.
Yeah.
And what was his name for you? I mean, what were you saved? Let me strike that. What were you saved in his phone as?
Mama.
So you the person that he was calling for when he was calling for his mama. Ain't that a bitch?
Now, approximately a week prior to Mr. Floyd's death, you and Mr. Floyd again purchased pills from Mr. Maurice Hall, correct?
I believe so, I'm not sure.
We thought it was his real mama. It was your ass.
Do you recall telling the FBI that you bought pills from Mr. Hall 1 week prior to Mr. Floyd's death?
Yes, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I didn't see anything happen.
You don't know where you get none of your drugs from after you done snitched on half of the people you got your drugs from. If you wasn't there, well, how you buy them then?
Yesterday, when you met with prosecutors, did you tell them that you were in the car at a hotel
Yes.
when those pills were purchased?
Yes.
Well, how in the hell you wasn't there?
And that you were on the phone with Mr. Floyd at that time?
Yes.
And you heard a voice in the background?
Yes.
And that was a voice you recognized to be from Mr. Hall?
I thought so, yeah.
Thought my ass. You know your pusher man voice and your pusher woman voice too.
Ms. Ross, does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, but none of that said he was buying drugs from her.
Why in the hell your ass keep lying and getting caught? You're losing your credibility.
You were asked, do you know who the woman was that he would have gotten that from? And your response was Shawanda Hill,
Yes.
right?
I was speculating at the time. I did not know that.
Understood.
Well, bitch, you're speculating about to get you hurt.
It was your belief that Mr. Floyd started using again about 2 weeks prior to his death, correct?
I noticed a change in his behavior, yes.
Meaning George Floyd relapsed, but your ass stayed sober. Ain't that a bitch?
And you described some of those changes in his behavior in that time frame, right?
Yes.
So now you snitching on George Floyd too.
Do you recall telling the FBI that there would be times that he would just be up and bouncing around, and then there would be times that he would be like unintelligible?
I don't recall that, but
Do we have to show you that too?
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Because it really don't matter, because evidently this bitch don't remember shit. Hey, what's up? What are you waiting on? If you ain't subscribed to my Patreon, go ahead and do it right now, because a brother need that support to keep this show rolling. I got 2 live shows for you. I got one on the 30th and I got one on the 23rd. I'm going to be doing stand-up. I'm going to be funny, and I got a great lineup for you. Subscribe now.